Erica. I saw your Zooms. Good morning. We'll get started in just a moment. If there's anyone here. If there's anyone here to give public comment in person, please fill out a speaker card. Good morning. Good morning. If you're here in person to give public comment, please fill out a speaker card. If you're on the Zoom, please *6 to unmute and identify yourself and *9 to raise your hand so we can call on you. Thank you. We'll get started in just a moment.
Audio test 1, 2, 3. and hopefully we can hear them.
Good morning, Isabel. I see you've raised your hand on the Zoom. Would you like to provide public comment on a general public comment or on a specific agenda item? You're unmuted.
Thank you. Public comment, please.
Thank you. Good. All right, we'll go ahead and get started and put the Zoom into record mode. We are now in record mode.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Tursky. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the regular scheduled meeting for the Board of Public Works for Friday, February 9th, 2024. Mr. Tursky?
Hi, good morning, President Garcia. Devin Zatorsky with the Board of Public Works. We have one general public comment on the Zoom.
And And no speaker cards.
And no speaker cards in person.
And no neighborhood council.
And no neighborhood council comments.
Very well. I think we need to establish quorum.
Yes. My apologies. We'll take roll and establish quorum. President Garcia?
Aye.
Vice President Villegas? President Pro Tem Davis?
Aye.
Commissioner Corsand?
Yeah. that's
And
the right
Commissioner Reyes?
Commissioner Reyes
Is
out on
excused.
an
Okay.
excused vacation. We also have the city attorney.
Great. And we have Ms. Virginia Choi with the city attorney, and again, Devin Zatorsky with the Board of Public Works. I'll repeat, no speaker cards in public, one speaker on the Zoom, no neighborhood council commentary, and no speaker cards under agenda items.
Very well. Thank you for that. Given that we do have one general public comment, let's take public comment now.
Great. Isabel, I'm going to unmute you on the Zoom, and you have 2 minutes beginning now.
Thank you so much. This is Isabel Duvivier. I'm one of the CFAC reps for CD11, but today I'm making a public comment about an LA beautification grant that you all voted in favor of about a year and a half ago for a project we're doing in Venice. It's the Venice Arbor Committee. We're working with Vern Venice Group, and we're re-landscaping Tabor Court with native plants that were planted by LADOT about 10 years ago, and the area was in need of some new native plants. The plants are quite unusual. They're from the Channel Islands. It was originally designed as a green street. It's a beautiful project. And on February 17th from 9 to 12, we have a public event. We would invite any of the commissioners who would like to come. I believe Tracy Park's office will be there. And anybody else who wants to come and speak on behalf of Public Works, we'd be very grateful to you. We're very grateful that we got the $2,500 to do the project. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Isabel.
Thank you for that. That's the last of the public comments, right, Mr. Tursky?
Correct. We are done with public comment.
Great. General public comments now officially closed. Moving on to the first item in today's business, which is the approval of the minutes of Wednesday, January 26, 2024. Is there a second to my motion to approve this item? Thank you, Dr. Davis. Mr. Tursky, there's a first by me and a second by Dr. Davis to approve the minutes of Wednesday, January 26, 2024.
Great. We'll get started with the roll call, beginning with you.
Aye.
Vice President Villegas? Aye. President Pro Tem Davis?
Aye.
And Commissioner Corsand?
Aye.
Great. All ayes, and the motion carries forthwith.
Okay, so there's a couple of changes on today's agenda. Let me just go through them for the record. Okay, item number 1 is continued to next Wednesday, February 14th. I believe that's next Wednesday.
So it's
Yes.
adopted.
Item number 2 has been withdrawn for now, and this will come back to the agenda. Item number 3, we're going to take on item number 4 and item number 5. Item number 6 and item number 7 is also withdrawn for now. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Given that, we are now moving on to item number 3. This is from the Office of Forest Management, Contract Award, Urban Forestry Assessment Projects, Urban Forest Management Plan, UFMP. Recommending the board to 1, authorize the city forest officer to issue a notice to proceed to Dudek and Associates, Inc., contract number 3879 from the Department of Recreation and Parks, pre-qualified on-call list, urban forestry consulting services, and tree inventory data collection list to provide job classification analysis related to the UFMP for an amount not to exceed $70,755 through March 2024. 2, authorize the city forest officer to issue a NTP to Davy Resource Group, contract number 3878 from the RAP, pre-qualified on-call list, urban forestry consulting services, and tree inventory data collection list to draft a street tree maintenance manual related to the UFMP for an amount not to exceed $99,580 through March 2024. 3, authorize the city forest officer to issue a NTP to DRG contract number 3878 from the RAP pre-qualified on-call list, urban forestry consulting services, and tree inventory data collection list to provide parks-related urban forestry assessments related to the UFMP for an amount not to exceed $74,190 through March 2024. And lastly, 4, authorize the executive officer of the board to or designate to make any technical corrections to the recommendation above to effectuate the intent of the board. And this morning we have our Chief Forest Officer here, Rachel Malloridge. Rachel, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you, President Garcia and Commissioners. What you have before you today is 3 projects that we're looking to award to contractors for the UFMP. As you may remember, we were awarded a CAL FIRE grant several years ago to help us complete the UFMP. We are in the middle of the community engagement campaign, which is our partnership with the county. That project is currently happening. These 3 smaller projects were selected based on ability for a consultant to complete them in the short time we have remaining on the grant, so through the end of March, and related to staff advisement on areas where we could receive specific support as we look to write the UFMP document mostly internally. So our team will be working on developing it and has been working on developing it, but these 3 projects are going to help us move forward more expeditiously on finishing the project and are ones where we could benefit from consultant services. So the first one is the job classification analysis. This project is, we've heard consistently from staff across departments that an awareness of an ability to hire staff with the right kinds of qualifications for urban forestry, ecology, and biology related positions has sometimes been challenging. So we're having the consultant look at our current classification and career ladders to look at alignment with the types of tasks the UFMP will be recommending we take and seeing if we have any adjustments to those classifications or potential new classifications that would be useful to the city in order to achieve our UFMP goals. The second project is related to a draft street tree maintenance manual. So our Urban Forestry Division does follow industry standards, the ANSI 300 standards, and the ISA International Society of Arboriculture standards for urban forestry, but the UFMP is going to be including documentation of the types of activities the city takes in terms of young tree planting, young tree care, and mature tree management, as well as looking at our risk management and decisions we make related to risk. And we've added into this project also a consideration of particular climate change concerns. That is how we prepare for taking care of mature trees in particular during times of drought and storms like the ones we had this week, how we can be more proactive and prepared. And so that project will be looking to document the city's practices and make any adjustments to make sure we're aligned with industry BMPs, and then we'll be able to have that information available to the public. I've shared with folks, if you talk to our Urban Forestry Division staff about their practices, they are using industry standards, but we're going to have that documented so that we can have that more transparently available to the public, and also just have a review to make sure that we're cleaning up any areas and adding some additional analysis, especially in those areas of the climate change related impacts of storm and drought. The third one is a parks related assessment. So again, recreation parks actually in completing their tree inventory had some additional funds in the grants they used to do their inventory and have recently worked on updating their tree care manual. So this element that we're doing for street trees, they don't need. They have an updated manual that they were going through the process of having adopted by their board. But they had flagged a couple additional assessments that would be assisting them in preparing for the future as well. And so we have 3 small projects within that park-related urban forestry assessment. One is related to heritage trees, and so that's either mature trees we have in parks that may be a particular specimen that's either got historic value, or maybe we have some park trees that are like the biggest of that species in the state. They're significant, and so how we make plan for caring for them, especially as they reach end of life. So heritage tree considerations is one. The second is looking at an overall biomass analysis of their system. And then the third is also related to drought. So when we have water restrictions, we find that park trees are particularly impacted when they have to also reduce their water use, and we don't want to have our large mature trees in our parks impacted by those water restrictions. So we're looking for some recommendations on how we can mobilize there. So again, a little bit into the weeds, but that's what we'll be working on with these consultants. We did receive permission from Recreation and Parks to use their pre-qualified on-call list, which has 4 vendors on it. Of those 4 vendors, 2 of them responded to our invitation for bids. That was for the draft street tree manual and the park-related assessments. We received project proposals from both Davie and Dudek. For the job classifications, we only received a proposal from Dudek. And so we had scoring conducted by 3 staff members, 1 from the Urban Forestry Division, 1 from Recreation and Parks Forestry, and 1 from Department of City Planning, who's been collaborating with us particularly on the job classifications question. And they scored those and have, our team took their scores and are recommending award to Dudek for the job classifications, Davie Resource Group for the draft street tree maintenance manual, and for the parks-related assessments. So there is my long report on what we're doing and what we're proposing here, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that, Ms. Malarich. Appreciate your report, very thorough. Any questions, colleagues? Hearing none. Any objections? Yes, I agree. We're excited about this, and I look forward to the job classification analyzation, because that can bring us a different set here at the city, and just the 3 different, the data collection as well, and then also the tree inventory, all of it. Good work. When do we expect for this to be completed?
So with the grant timeline that we have, and we did request from the state an extension for the grant, and they are not, on this certain batch of funds, they are unable to offer an extension. So we have through March 31st, which is, a little bit more than 6 weeks away. That was part of this invitation to bid for consultants, was informing them of the incredibly short timeline and asking them to be really demonstrating to us that they could perform this work in the short time that we have, and we feel confident that they will. So end of March, we should have draft documents for these projects from the consultants, and then we'll be using that as we continue to develop the UFMP throughout the course of this year.
Okay, very well, I like that. Perhaps once you kind of have it set up and it's refined and everything, you can come back and present to us what they look like?
Absolutely.
Okay, I appreciate that. Any other questions? Concerns? Given none, is there a motion on the table to move item number 3 forward and forthwith?
So moved.
Thank you, VP Villegas. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Dr. Davis and Commissioner Corson. Mr. Tursky, we have a first by Vice President Villegas and a second by Dr. Davis and Commissioner Corson to move item number 3 forward and forthwith.
Great. We will take roll call, beginning with you, President Garcia.
Aye.
Vice President Villegas.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Davis.
Aye.
And Commissioner Corsian.
Aye.
Great. All ayes, the item is adopted and carries forthwith.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend. Moving on to item number 4, this is a joint report with the Bureau of Contract Administration and Bureau of Street Services in Council District 3. Contract acceptance, Los Angeles River Headwater Bikeway, Owens Mouth Avenue to Mason Avenue, Federal Project Number ATPL-5006, recommending the board to 1, accept this contract, 2, assess United Construction and Landscape, Inc. with a penalty in the amount of $189,107.75 for the unauthorized subcontractor substitutions of 1 bid listed disadvantaged business enterprise subcontractor and 1 bid listed other business enterprise subcontractor. And 3, instruct the Department of Transportation Accounting to disencumber the recommended city penalty in the amount of $189,107.75 from the project fund. And this morning, we have Mr. Gutierrez here on this item, right?
I'm sorry?
Mr. Gutierrez is presenting on the item?
I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, but is our public speaker Zoom or in person?
2 in person that are representing the contract,
Okay,
so not public comment.
okay.
So no time limit.
So, Mark, give us a second. We're going to take public comment. Well, but you're not public comment. You're an interest party, right?
Correct.
Okay, then no, Mark goes first and then yourself.
That's
And then if we have anybody else on the line, we'll take them third. Okay, Mr. Gutierrez.
Right. Good morning, Board President, Commissioners, Executive Officer, City Attorney, Mark Gutierrez, BCA OCC. As read by the President, our recommendation is to assess the prime contractor with a penalty in the amount of $189,107.75 for the unauthorized substitutions of one bid-listed DBE and one bid-listed OBE. The DBE comprises the large chunk of that amount at about $184,000, and the OBE the remaining $5,000. So first, the DBE subcontractor, Reyes, was bid listed to perform electrical work totaling $755,050. Staff verified that the subcontractor performed only $571,020.85. Therefore, the contractor may be assessed a penalty totaling $184,029.15. That's the difference between bid listed and final dollar amounts. The contractor was informed of the potential penalty in June of 2023. They responded stating the main contributing factor which led to our unintentional missteps was the COVID-19 pandemic that was prevalent at the time and the resulting circumstances. We faced severe shortages of workers, including office staff, field managers, and labor, and were hardly able to keep up with our construction schedule. They continued, we humbly ask that you consider the above explanation and mitigating circumstances and waive the recommended penalty. In addition, they provided a letter from Reyes acknowledging their reduced subcontract amount. However, per bid proposal requirements as they relate to subcontractors, unless the city authorizes one, a request to use other forces, or two, a good faith effort for a substitution of a terminated DBE, the city does not pay for work listed on the Exhibit 15G, Construction Contract DBE Commitment Form, unless it is performed by the listed DBE or an authorized substitute. Staff consulted BCA's Special Research and Investigation Section, who confirmed that the contractor did not submit a request to substitute Reyes, partial or otherwise, also adding that they successfully substituted their bid-listed survey subcontractor, confirming that they should be aware or have been familiar with the substitution process. Additionally, staff consulted Caltrans, who provided concurrence to the penalty recommendation stating the city must deny payment to the prime contractor for the portion of the contract that was committed at the time of contract execution to be performed by a DBE sub, but was completed by the prime contractor or a substitute non-DBE sub, unless agreed by the city in writing. For all those reasons, and because staff did not locate any approval to substitute Reyes, staff is recommending that a penalty in the amount of $184,029.15 be assessed. The second sub is Shack Plumbing, a non-DBE. They were bid listed to perform plumbing work totaling $50,786. Staff verified that the subcontractor did not perform any work on the project. Therefore, the contractor may be assessed a penalty of $5,078.60, representing 10% of their bid listed amount. Again, the contractor was informed of the potential penalty in June of 2023. They responded with the same reason. Main contributing factor was COVID-19, prevalent during the time and the resulting circumstances. They faced severe shortages of workers, including staff, managers, and labor, and were hardly able to keep up with the construction schedule. They continued, they humbly ask that you consider the above explanation and mitigating circumstances and waive the recommended penalty. In their response, they did not provide any additional information as it relates to Shack. Per bid proposal requirements as they relate to non-DBE subcontractors, in the event that a subcontract is reduced due to a project change that will not be specified in a change order, contractor shall request approval for reducing the subcontract by documenting the name of the company for which the reduction is requested, the dollar amount, and the reason for reduction. A contractor violating any provisions of the section shall be deemed in violation of the contract, and the board may at its discretion assess the contractor a penalty of not more than 10% of the amount of the subcontract involved. Because staff did not locate any approval to substitute Shack, staff is recommending a penalty in the amount of $5,078.60. That concludes my report regarding the penalty recommendation. Would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that, Mark. Why don't we have our interest parties provide their support, so we have two in person and one via Zoom? No, it's via Zoom.
No Zoom, both
Okay.
in person.
Okay, please come up, sir. State your name and your company.
Of course, I'm Guy Bailey. I'm an attorney. This is my client, Mr. Jayaratna.
Into the,
Sure. My name is Guy Bailey. Can you hear me okay? All right. And this is Mr. Jayaratna. He's a principal of the contractor in this case. And so we had some, I mean, I listened to the report. It's pretty accurate. The, you know, the contractor here is very grateful to have been given this opportunity. It's a very small company, so it's a very sizable contract, and they're very glad that it appears it'll be approved, okay? But as for the deductions, you know, it's just very unfortunate. They, as I say, they're small. They had their own manpower issues, and so they were not able to, you know, seek the substitution procedure. They didn't follow the substitution procedure. But as the report indicated, Reyes, the subcontractor in this case, you know, clearly had a serious problem to man, you know, to man the job. So the contractor had to take part of the job back to get it done. But as the board will note, the project was fulfilled within, it's a 2-year project, it was fulfilled within 1 year. So it's way ahead of schedule, or at least way ahead of what could have been allowed for the job. And secondly, it was well within budget. I mean, it was over by a fraction of a percent, as far as I could tell. So, and the quality, I believe, has been acknowledged as a very high quality finish, a finished product, also by the city councilman who's been out there, Mr. Blumenfeld. He came out to the site. So the contractors respectfully requesting a reconsideration of the $189,000, or at least $184,000 that relates to Reyes. And Mr. Reyes, we tried to get Mr. Reyes here, and unfortunately he can't because he's out of the country. But again, if you take a look at his letter, it clearly lays out the problem that they had. With respect to Shack Plumbing, that's a rather minor issue in the sense that, you know, it's a very tiny part of the job. Shack did provide us with a letter saying they were literally unavailable to do, it turned out to be unavailable to do the job after that because they had their own manpower shortages. I have that letter with me. I was not aware it was not in the record. So with all of that, I mean, the Shack is obviously a tiny portion of it, but if the board can reconsider part of the $184,000, that would be much appreciated if the board can even do that. It's a very heavy hit for a very small company. So that's where we are. Thank you very much for your time.
thank you for that, I appreciate that. Any other interest party? Hearing none. Commissioners, any questions?
Question for the attorney.
Sure, Dr. Davis.
The company said that the problem they had was that the vendor, the subcontractor, was not able to fulfill their obligation. And as a result of it, as the prime contractor, they obviously are held responsible to get the task completed. And so they went forward with doing the work that was left undone by the sub. Is that what occurred?
Right, that's kind of considered giving back part of the work if they can't get it done. So that's what occurred
And so
here.
they assumed the responsibility for the sub that they hired to do the work that did not follow through. Is that pretty
Yeah.
accurate?
Of course, yeah.
Now, the reporting period, when a change occurs, the prime has a responsibility to notify, contract administration about that change? Is that right?
Well, I'm not the person that does it, you know, but that's my understanding of the internal procedure, and Mr. Gutierrez probably knows better than me the timeframes.
Right.
But that's the process anyway.
Were they able to your knowledge, notify the contract administration or let them know about the unfortunate situation that occurred?
Well, no, it appears that they didn't. I mean, we don't have any record of it. They apparently don't. So if somebody said it on the fly, we can't show that.
Okay. But you did say for us that despite the challenge that had occurred and the not being able to notify Con Ed, that in fact, the project came in on budget and on time. Is that correct?
Well, that's, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Mhm, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Vice President Villegas, did you have questions?
Yes, I just wanted our BCA representative, just to, if you could please go over what's the right word? The penalty fees, if you can review those again with us, and let us know what options we have for today.
Certainly, so the sum of penalties is $189,107.75. The bulk comes from Reyes, the DBE sub. That total is $184,029.15. The reason behind that are the federal regulations require that DBEs be utilized as pledged. There's a difference versus city policy and federal, where if it's a DBE sub on a federal project, the penalty amount is 100% of the difference, 100% of the underutilization amount. In other words, hypothetically, if Reyes wasn't used at all and there was no substitution of them, as occurred here, we would recommend a full $755,000 penalty versus 10% if it were just a city-funded project. And then alternately, SHAC, who's an OBE, because the Fed regs speak specifically to DBEs, but not non-DBEs, not OBEs, the penalty is the same as what the city policy would be, which is maximum 10% of the underutilization amount. So SHAC was bid listed for $50,786. The city may assess a penalty of up to $5,078.60.
If in fact the prime contractor had notified the Bureau of Contract Administration, what would have been the options moving forward on the project, given the reality of the failure of the sub to fulfill its obligation? What options would the prime would have had they notified BCA?
Yeah, ideally in real time, as this situation occurred, when it was understood that Reyes couldn't complete the balance of what they were pledged, prime contractor United should have informed the city, as I think was discussed already. And because they're a DBE, the process is the balance of work needs to be replaced with another DBE, so an alternate DB electrical sub, or the prime would need to submit good faith efforts saying they contacted all available electrical DB subs, were unable to get any of them to come on to complete the project, and then their request to self-perform the work may have been approved in that case. If they could have furnished, they made the attempt to find a replacement DBE, could not, and then the city may have approved at that point the prime to self-perform the balance. But in researching what actually occurred on the project, couldn't find any of that.
So in fact, the prime contractor would have been given extra time in which to search for a substitute subcontractor. And if in fact they were unsuccessful in doing so, it's possible that they could have been approved to complete the work by Bureau of Contract Administration.
That's correct, yes.
Thank you.
Fair enough. Thank you. Commissioner Corson?
Thank you. To confirm, who did the balance of the work?
The prime self-performed, and they could say if that's not the case, but my understanding is the prime self-performed the balance.
Okay. I didn't see it in the packet, but the prime itself, does it have any DBE, anything, components that we could?
Yeah, the prime themselves, again, they could counter, but I don't believe they're a DBE. This project was awarded based on them meeting the DBE goal by pledging to DBE subs. But on other projects, if the prime is a DBE, they could meet the goal by virtue of themselves being a DBE.
And so that 100% again is a federal policy based on the funding that we
That's
receive?
correct, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? So, Vice President Villegas?
I have one. Thank you for asking that question, Commissioner Corson. Uh, So you don't know if, what is it, United Construction or Assets United Construction and Landscaping, known as United, you don't know if they're a DBE or OBE or,
At the
Are they
time of
registered?
award, if they were a DBE, we definitely would have noted that, and they could have met the goal by virtue of themselves being a DBE. At the time of award, they were not a DBE. I'm not sure if that has changed since, but yeah, they're not a DBE.
they are not a DBE according to registration with the city. Is that
Exactly. They're-
correct?
Well, yeah, they could potentially be certified by the city as DBE, but there are other agencies as well.
Okay. And what if they register now as a DBE? Would they be able to comply with these federal requirements?
So
Well, I'm asking the question, that's a question for staff.
yeah, the feds are very strict in that. So say they listed Reyes as a DBE
Or our city attorney.
and they lost their certification, the day they lose certification or the day they gain is when we could start counting credit as such. So if they got certified now, that's obviously now, any work they did in the past wouldn't count towards DBE.
Okay. And do we have an opinion by the city attorney?
I'm not sure that this is subject to my opinion. I believe if the regulations, which I have not looked at, but if that is what the regulations say, and that is what staff is representing, then I would assume that that is accurate and the DB certification should have been present at the time of the bid.
Maybe Ms. McClinchy want to clarify all of that as well?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Linda McGlinchey, Bureau of Contract Administration. Just to clarify, in terms of the Prime's DBE certification, no, that they are not. That would have been noted, as Mark stated, in the board report, and they would have been receiving DBE credit had they been certified. The contract documents also require them to file a form that talks about certification status changes. So had they become certified during the course of the contract, that should have been noted on the contract documents as well, or the form, should I say.
Got it.
Okay. And another question, the amount of the contract was for just a little over 5.8 million, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Awarded for about 5.8 million.
Okay, and were all of those funds federal money?
Going to defer to colleagues in
Yeah.
a different bureau.
Or
ahead.
yeah, if you can break up.
Mr.
Good morning. My name is Brian Ahn. I'm with Bureau of Street Services. Regarding the funding, I also might call the Department of Transportation, who oversee the funding for this project. My understanding is that 80% of this project is comes from Active Transportation Program, which is federally funded, and 20%, remaining 20% comes from the local funds, Measure R, and I believe.
Is that in our attachments?
I believe it's in the one of the attachment in the
Okay.
original board report that is awarding
Seeing
this
it.
project.
And that's an important piece in order for us to assess the fees.
So just to give you a background, this is includes a grant funds of $4,941,908.55 from the State and Active Transportation Program, along with the local match of $1,451,927.84 from the Measure R and Transportation Development Act funds. That's what's constituted of funding for this project.
Okay.
Sorry, just to clarify, Mark, can you state how are we under the federal law of this? My understanding is even if it's $1 of a federal use, we have to comply with the DBE statute. Am I correct about that?
Correct. So because there's any federal funding involved, we fall under Code of Federal Regulations 49, Part 26. And that is where US DOT states that no funds will be paid for a DBE subcontractor not provided the full work that they were pledged.
Okay, and since this project was a little over $4 million with federal money, and I'm just trying to put apples to apples, can that penalty fee for them, for the 1.8, I think it was, I don't have it right in front of me, but can it be proportioned, or like
No, Commissioner, so that is why Mark, because of the magnitude of this recommended penalty, Mark did take the extra step to reach out to Caltrans. Caltrans is the funding agent for USDOT. USDOT sends the money to
I understand.
Caltrans.
Yeah,
Caltrans then
I get
acts
that.
with us.
Yeah.
So they are clearly stating that they're not going to pay that 184.
Okay, and let me see the report. I wish we would put in the attachments the code. You just state the number, but I wish we would actually see the, I'm just saying, like, if we could see the language, that would be helpful in the attachments for this report. You know, today's meeting, you know, mind you, we only have 7 items on today's agenda, and our board report is close to 1,000 pages. One board report has at least over 600 pages. So while we're seeing a lot of digital paperwork here on our on the full report, I appreciate that. More is better, I know, for me, because I'd like to see all that detail. And if your staff could send that to me, I would appreciate, or to Ms. Satorsky, I would appreciate that. All right, and so then it can't be like prorated, or it can't be that's what you're telling me.
So
But
you as a board.
But let me finish my question, sorry to interrupt you. But we do have like at least $1 million coming from Measure R, is that correct?
So you as a board may use your discretion, but Caltrans will not reimburse us that 184, whatever you choose to do.
But my question was, the other portion is the Measure R.
My understanding is that 1,451,000 is coming from Measure R and Transportation Development Act funds, which is our local funds. And we have a representative from Department of Transportation who oversee the fund for this.
Do we have a representative from Metro?
We don't have.
Okay. And I'm just trying to, I know you keep telling me no. I understand what that means. However, we don't have everything here before us. So I'm asking if the same rules apply for Metro.
Would you like to come to the podium?
You can move it up. Yeah, move it.
President and Commissioners. Lucas Sandoval, Transportation Engineer, LADOT. I think you're trying to ask if we're able to.
Well, you're DOT. I realize what you're the acceptance for federal money. I get those rules.
So I know we said this already, but I just want to repeat that we will not get funded back our money that's already, technically we can't request that, correct? Now, we do have Measure R funds that we use for this, but it's still like under the federal guidelines. And at this time, since it's already the end of the project, we requested funds to recover our labor costs. And we have a fund that from this project that has not gone back to our labor cost. Let's just call it a temporary fund. So those funds could be used. However, they won't go back to our labor force. In other words, it's not going to be specific to any one project because engineers and project managers use either Measure R, Prop C, or Measure M to do various works throughout the city. So it's not tied to any specific project or any part of the city. So there might be an opportunity. However, the board has to instruct DOT to look into that.
Okay. All right. I have, I appreciate, that information. Thank you. Thank you for letting us know that, that information. I remember my last question, and this is for BCA. I know when we call this is a penalty and fees, has the last portion, sometimes when we do capital improvement projects or, projects, large projects, we keep at least the remaining either 5 or 10%. Have we already given this project all of their disbursements, or are we keeping anything
The only
that we
amount-
haven't dispersed?
Yeah, the only amount we're withholding is this disputed penalty totaling
I can barely hear you.
Sorry. The only amount that we're withholding is what's in this report for the two potential penalties totaling $189,107.75.
Okay, so we're withholding it.
Correct.
We haven't released it.
No.
Okay. Okay. That was all.
Okay, thank you, Vice President Villegas. So just to kind of put everything in one kind of look here. So I also have a question on the $5,000 though. So one of them, this project is over, right? This project's finished? Okay, got it. United Construction did not notify us of the change and that they would self-perform the work, right?
When it occurred, they did not inform.
They did not notify, but they were aware that that was a process that they should have done, right?
They're aware now. The assumption is they were aware of that process in real time and that they were able to successfully substitute out another sub.
Got it. Because when we contracted with United Construction, these were part of the terms, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Wanted to make sure we knew that. Do we know why they did not notify us? Go ahead, come on. State your name.
Indika Jayaratna. Good morning.
Good morning.
Everybody. And my name is Indika Jayaratna. I'm the president of the company. And I want to explain a little bit about the contract. And okay.
Yeah.
This contract, City of LA, they bid 1 year ago, and two different contractor, and that contractor, whatever that contractor didn't qualified or he cannot bid the job. Anyway, how City of Los Angeles, they pay for that contractor close to $1 million to get it back from that contractor. And secondly, and they bid this project, and however, we got this project, and we are doing, when we are doing this project, this is our first project for the City of LA. And anyway, how some procedures we don't know, and that's why we did some mistake. Yes, we didn't inform mistakenly, not knowing. And anyway, how this is a 2-year project, 2-year contract. Anyway, how we finished this project within 1 year, and we save a lot of money for the City of LA employee, and from our side also, we have to finish this project within 1 year to at least save money from our side also. And however, in very hard COVID period. And like whatever 2001 and 2002, we finished this project within 1 year. And in the meantime, the Reyes Electrical, and they said they don't have enough laborers to do concrete work and rebar works and concrete work and some drilling, and they said they don't have enough manpower. That's why they give it to us, and then we did those work in-house using in-house employees. And however, the mistake we did without knowing, and we didn't do with this thing knowing anything. That's what.
Thank you for your report. Ms. McGlin, or Mark, Ms. McGlinchey, even though they and this is irrelevant to this, but I just want for my clarification, but even though they finished 1 year prior, did they still get the full amount of the contract?
Yes, they did. Regardless of the completion date, they performed the awarded amount, and then they got fully paid for the awarded amount.
For what we contracted them for?
Correct.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Thank you. Now, I want to ask about the 5K, the 5,000 something, I don't know the change in that. Now, that was another mistake. They did not use that contractor, therefore they did not pay out the $5,000, right? And because that is, why is that a little different than the DBE?
Yeah, so they similarly bid listed Shack Plumbing for
Uh-huh.
$50,786, but Shack Plumbing is an OBE and not a certified DBE. So the penalty max there is 10% of their bid listed amount.
Now, because it's an OBE, that's not the federal program, which is the DBE, that's why they're being held to that standard. Do we have any discretion on the $5,000 penalty?
Yes, you do. The maximum penalty that the board may assess is 10%, and since it's may, you have the discretion to penalize up to $5,078.60.
Up to, or we can say 0.
That's correct.
Okay, understood. Any other questions, colleagues? Go ahead, Dr. Davis.
The fee of penalty that we are trying to execute on behalf of BCA, we are recommending what as it relates to the federal issue?
The breakdown.
Yeah, the breakdown is the full difference between what was pledged to the DBE and what was actually paid to the DBE.
Okay. So, and that's 184,000, you said?
That's correct, yes.
Now, the 5,000 that you speak of, Madam President, is what?
5,000 that I'm referring to is they did not utilize a second contractor, which is an OBE Shack Plumbing. They came into the contract with them bid listed, but they did not utilize them. And because they did not utilize them, the city policy is that we impose a 10% fee of the $50,786.
That's in addition to the 184,000?
Uh-huh, yeah. So it's 84,000 for the DBE penalty and 5,000 for the non-usage of Shack Plumbing and OBE, and so together it's 189, correct?
And so your point is in fact that the second discussion is about a local regulation,
Correct.
not a federal regulation.
Correct. And so it seems to me, correct me, that we can be lenient on the $5,000, but we cannot be lenient on the 184,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Because the 184 is under the federal DBE program, and if we were to deviate from that, we would technically be breaking a federal,
Right.
And
It's
we
a
won't-
federal reg that we.
and we won't be
never-
reimbursed.
We won't be reimbursed.
And we won't be reimbursed. Now, on the 5%, that's, in the 10% of the $50,000, it's really our discretion.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
So, certainly we want to make sure that business in Los Angeles is productive for all of the parties involved in doing business. And yet at the same time, unfortunately, one of the key critical elements of doing business with the City of Los Angeles and doing business with the Bureau of Contract Administration is in fact reporting. And so when companies usually engage in an agreement to do contract and do business with the City of Los Angeles, there is a session conducted by our staff in which they talk about the rules that will be enacted while you're doing business, including informing you of the responsibility to report. So I'm thinking that that meeting took place before they engaged in work, as it usually does with all of those who are doing business and have an agreement with us to do business. So there have been efforts on our behalf as a city to inform all of our prime contractors that reporting is critically important. And unfortunately, as it relates to our doing business with the federal government, it makes it very difficult in terms of how they envision our follow-through on the federal rules. If we do receive federal dollars, we are compelled to follow the federal rules in these circumstances, unfortunately. So I agree with President Garcia that in looking at the other $5,000 might seem to be perhaps an appropriate way in which we can enact some kind of relief. But again, reporting is just so critically important in doing business with the city, and we try to inform all those individuals who work with us how important it is. And this is a circumstance where, when in fact the reporting has not taken place, how it makes it difficult for us to make prime contractors whole when they don't inform us. You must inform us if you're doing business with us on these issues.
Agreed, Dr. Davis. Unless, Commissioner Corson?
I don't have a question, but my position on it is, I mean, if it was just one instance, I could see the leniency, but it was twice. And as Dr. Davis said, like, we do a lot of effort. It's a lot of work to get one of these contracts. And I don't make the assumption that the rules were not read on what the policies and procedures are. Like, if you're sophisticated enough to win the contract, you're sophisticated enough to know what the procedures are, in my opinion. That's the assumption I'm going to make. So I don't see the space for leniency unless you want to make a compelling case, President Garcia or Dr. Davis, or I think I think I saw the big dollar amount and I was a little worried, and it is a significant sum, but if it was just one instance on the contract, I could see, okay, just happened, accidents happen and oversights happen, but twice with two separate subs was a little different for me.
I'd have to say that I'd have to agree with your argument, and that unfortunately, we also have a systematic concern about subcontractors not getting the work that has been pledged.
Yeah, that's been an issue
So it
for a long
keeps
time.
us like on the fence, but with an eye towards subcontractors not getting the work that's being pledged. So when you talk about this pattern of action that is consistent, it really makes us have to be the keeper of being balanced in how we implement policy.
I have to agree with both Commissioner Corson and Dr. Davis as well. One last question for my thorough clarification here. You had a pre-bid award for this conference?
Yeah, there's a pre-bid meeting. I am unsure if they attended. Federal projects don't have a required attending at the pre-bid. But
They do or they do not?
They do not have to attend. It's not mandatory that they attend,
Okay,
but we do go over the requirements there. But we definitely go over the requirements as well in the pre-construction meeting,
okay.
where that's solely with the awarded prime contractor, and all the requirements are disseminated there in the pre-construction.
Okay, understood. What was the reason that they did not use the second contractor? Okay,
You know, and I'm sitting there listening to this, and I mean, respectfully, I said I had a letter, I mean, this is COVID.
what was the reason that you did not use the second contractor?
Okay, as I said, we had a letter, the company was unavailable.
What was the reason why the prime contractor did not utilize the second subcontractor?
Right, they were unavailable, and I said I had a letter to that.
Shack Plumbing was unavailable?
Yes.
Did you notify that to BCA?
No, it was not notified. We were all agreed it wasn't notified, or at least if it was.
Okay,
We don't have a record of it. Okay.
Appreciate your time.
Well, I do have a closing remark on that.
Sure, you can say it.
Everything up until the point where, you know, frankly, and the indications, I'm not a contractor, obviously, okay, but up until the point where, you know, that there's some reference to some ongoing problem in the city with the utilization of subcontractors, the completion of this has nothing to do with that. These people could not get workers. I mean, I think everybody knows that. I mean, it's documented. So the first contractor, I mean, if I may, because, you know, obviously the decisions, you know, I see where you're going, but with respect to the first one, the subcontractor came on and did the job. The board, the agency is free to contact that subcontractor and find out if there's something nefarious going on where the subcontractor didn't perform all the work. Okay, the agency could follow up and ask them, did you promise to give part of this work back? I mean, all kinds of stuff goes on in the building industry. We know that, okay? But there's no evidence of that. There's no evidence that there was anything. I mean, the letter is there from Reyes. He says he couldn't staff the job. So this has nothing to do with a subcontractor not being brought on and completing the job. As I say, the Shack letter did not make it into the record. I apologize for that. However, it's very clear that they also were unavailable to do the job. That's not the same as being, you know, being promised that they'll be brought on the job and then all of a sudden they're disappointed. They were unavailable. Same reason, labor shortage. But, you know, I don't like the aspersions being put on my client that there's something going on that's part of some larger pattern. I mean, we didn't come down here to, you know, we're just trying to survive here. Okay, that's $189,000 for a tiny little business.
Understood.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I do want to say to him that the issue here is the element of reporting, and that it's critically important that those who do business with the city understand the responsibility and the obligation to report. The failure to do it makes it very complex. As it relates to the issue about subcontractors getting the work that has been pledged, has no aspersion on prime contractors. But what it does mean for those of us who sit on the Board of Public Works is to have an environment where when we consider relief to prime contractors, when we consider not giving the response to the failure to report to prime contractors, when we consider that, to undermine that by not giving what the Bureau of Contract Administration has advised, in many ways kind of undermines a system where subcontractors are supposed to get work that has been pledged. It does not put an aspersion any whatsoever on prime contractors. And what we want to do is bring relief when we can, because we want everyone in the system who's doing work with us to have success. And yet at the same time, we have a responsibility to provide some balance. And in having to provide that balance, we have to understand the importance of subcontractors as well as primes, even though primes are the ones that run the projects and make the ultimate decisions. Subs are a part of the system. And the system says that if we have pledges where subs are to get that work, at some point at the policy level, we have to review if they are getting that work. And again, the real issue here is reporting. It is not an undermining of the prime contractor, and hopefully it won't be an undermining of the system, that everyone who does work with us gets an equal opportunity to be involved. Thank you, sir.
And I also want to just say for the record that this issue is not going to be impacted for future work. This is one, and so we take it as this is one contract and we're done. Am I correct, Ms. McClinchy? It is one, moving forward, this is not an impact for future work or future implementation or anything like that. Every contract is a sole contract, and what happens with this one does not transfer to future work or past work. This is this contract. If he has multiple contracts, this is not going to get impacted at all. I just want to make that for the record. He can continue to submit, bid, and work with us. This is just what happened with this contract. Any other, do you want to close it, or you're comfortable now so that we can discuss here?
I mean, I'm sitting there squirming. I don't have any, I'm sitting there thinking about what's being said. I'm still hearing about the subcontractors. We will put that letter that I mentioned from Shaq into the record, okay? I totally got the point about notification. This was COVID. I know you can't do anything about it. That's the bottom line here.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but, ask yourself, if the three-person company, that loses $189,000 on a job on one job, and they do a great job, whether they can afford to come back and ask for more work,
we totally understand
that's
that.
your problem.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay,
So-
sir, thank you for all of that. I appreciate it. Is there a motion on the table to move item number 4 forward and forthwith? Thank you, Dr. Davis. Is there a second? Thank you, Commissioner Corson. Mr. Tursky, there's a first by Dr. Davis and a second by Commissioner Corson to move item number 4 forward and forthwith.
Okay, we'll tabulate the vote, beginning with you, President Garcia.
Aye.
Vice President Villegas?
I abstain.
President Pro Tem Davis?
Aye.
And Commissioner Corsand?
Aye.
The item is adopted and carries forthwith.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Tursky. Thank you, everybody, for being
Thank
here
you.
this morning.
I just want to make one comment, actually one recommendation, and it's not like a recommendation that this board needs to approve. I would want Bureau of Contract Administration to work with United and work on getting him certified as a DPE.
If they qualify.
Yeah, I understand, but I can still ask for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
If they want to apply as a DBE under, for the city, yes, we will certainly process.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you, everybody. Sorry, sir. Thank you. All right, colleagues, moving on to item number 5. This is a request from the Bureau of Contract Administration and the Bureau of Engineering and Council District 8. Contract acceptance, small sidewalk repair access request, acceleration package number 8. Recommending the board to 1, accept this contract, 2, not assess Eno Construction, Inc., DBA Phoenix Roofing, with a penalty in the amount of $249.90 for the use of one approved second-tier subcontractor used by their subcontractor, All American Asphalt, and 3, disencumber and release disputed funds in the amount of $249.90 to the contractor. Mark? Welcome again.
Yeah, good morning again, everyone. This is a smaller recommendation to actually release the withheld amount of $243.90 to contractor Inno Construction. So the unapproved subcontractor involved is CPR Trucking. They performed $2,439 worth of work, but they were not approved to perform that work. Therefore, the penalty, potential penalty is 10% of that amount, $243.90. Staff found that CPR was utilized for that $2,439 for 2 days, but was not approved on the project. Per Article 44 of the contract, staff was recommending a penalty assessment of $14,127.42 for subcontractor All-American Asphalt's failure to reach out to the TJOPs prior to obtaining approval to subcontract the trucking work. The prime contractor, Inno, was informed of the potential penalty for the subcontractor not meeting the criteria in June of 2020. Staff was made aware that Inno asked All-American Asphalt if they were planning to subcontract a dump truck before the project began, but did not receive an answer. In April of 2020, staff erroneously notified All-American Asphalt that Inno, as the prime, would reach out to the TJOP for a dump truck because they were the prime on the project. As directed by BCA, Inno complied with reaching out to the TJOP list of employers. Inno was subsequently approved to subcontract a dump truck on May 1st, 2020. In September of 2022, staff reconsidered the application of Article 44 as it pertains to subcontracting and determined that Article 44 had not been violated because it only encourages outreach to TJOPs prior to subcontracting rather than requiring outreach. However, the Master General Conditions still state that failure to obtain approval of any sub at any level is subject to a penalty of 10% of the total amount of work performed by said subcontractor. For this project, the subcontractor failed to either request or receive approval to utilize CPR trucking. However, due to staff error, Inno and All-American Asphalt were led to believe that they had complied with the subcontractor approval process as it pertains to CPR trucking. Therefore, staff's recommendation is that the contractor not be assessed a penalty of $243.90 for using an unapproved sub. That concludes my report on this. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that, Mr. Gutierrez. Any questions? Vice President Villegas?
Just a minor, for just my education, the amount seems very small, and it's probably cost us more to even do this report and get to this point. Does BCA have a threshold? Like, do you have to come for every one of these?
I might defer to Linda, but our section, business inclusion section, as it relates to subcontracting, won't normally go forward with a report like this, but this is more on the labor side, involving the TJOP requirements and possibly PLA, but I'll pass it to Linda.
Good morning again. So if you may recall, sometime last year, we had a different project under the small sidewalk where All-American Asphalt was the prime. Similar situation. So because of that, we wanted to be consistent. You're right, we wouldn't normally go after a penalty or even acknowledge or bring it up. But in this case, to be consistent and treat all of our small sidewalk contractors basically in the same manner, it seemed appropriate to bring this to you.
Okay, I know during my briefing I asked, are we gonna cut them a check? What are we gonna do? So they said just a physical check, right? Not a big, it's not an. Any other questions, comments, or concern on item number 5? Given none, is there a motion on the table to move item number 5 forward and forthwith? Thank you, Vice President Villegas. Thank you, Dr. Davis. Mr. Tursky, we have a first by Vice President Villegas and a second by Dr. Davis to move item number 5 forward and forthwith.
Okay, we'll take the roll call, beginning with you, President Garcia.
Aye.
Vice President Villegas.
Aye.
President Pro Tem Davis.
Aye.
And Commissioner Corsand.
Aye.
Great, all ayes, and the item is adopted and carries forthwith.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much
you.
for the VCA team being here this morning. And lastly, yay, come on down. Item number 6, this is an oral report on status update on major upcoming street improvement projects by the Bureau of Street Services. Good morning.
Good morning, President Garcia, Commissioners, and Bureau Representatives. My name is Paul Bingaman. I'm here to present for the Board of Public Works, Street Services, Street Renewal Department. This information is being provided to keep the public informed on upcoming resurfacing projects and to minimize the impact on the community as well as delays for commuters. For additional information and concerns, you can contact the coordinating section for the Street Renewal Department at 213-847-3200. The following major street project is scheduled for the Valley region during the week of February 11, 2024 through February 17, 2024. Saturday, February 10th through Sunday, February 18, 2024, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., we will begin cold milling and paving Reseda Boulevard from Roscoe Boulevard to Valerio Street in CD4 Reseda Council Pavement Preservation Program Fund. Saturday, February 10th, 2024 through Sunday, 2008, February 18th, 2024, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., we will begin cold milling and paving Reseda Boulevard from Parthenia Street to Roscoe Boulevard in CD12, the Northridge Council Pavement Preservation Fund. Additionally, we will provide an update on our 23-24 pavement preservation program. During the week of February 11th through February 17th, 2024, the Valley and Metro regions will complete 12 projects for a total of 7.42 lane miles. The press releases were distributed, notifications have been issued. Streets LA has coordinated with the council offices to assist in the outreach to stakeholders. We have coordinated with the Los Angeles Department of Transportation for traffic control assistance. This information is also available on the Streets LA website using the Resurfacing Open Projects icon. And this concludes my report.
Okay, any question for Mr. Bingaman? Hearing none, thank you so much for this morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend, sir. All right, colleagues, Mr. Turkey, is this the end of our voting items?
That is the end.
All right, colleagues, it is now 11:20 and this meeting is officially adjourned. We will cancel management meeting for today. Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend and we'll see you all on Valentine's Day next Wednesday. Thank you. Well, no, I do. Because we don't have, and we don't have the pathways for, not ready. They told us this they don't have it ready. So I'm sharing it with you. In the meantime,